Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Orange County Industrial Development Agency meeting for March 20th, 2024. The meeting is beginning at 5:32 p.m. on this date. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask for the roll call, please. Bill.
Jeff Christ.
Here.
Mark Green.
Here.
Dr. Vincent Odock.
Yes.
Susan Walski.
Here.
Giovanni Palladino.
Here.
Linda Muller.
Here.
We have 6 out of 7 members here, 1 excused absence, Mr. Dean Tambury. Also in attendance for staff, Bill Fioravanti, myself, Ellie Riley, and Marty Barras from Quebec. Also Mr. Jose Rojas doing AV for us with acquisitions and marketing, and we have a few guests. Well, of course, we have Susan Katzoff, our general counsel. Also on Zoom is Mr. Brian Lynches from the Castle Fund Center. And in person, we have Melissa Zott from PKF O'Connor Davies, of course, our auditor, and from Vision Hudson Valley, again, Katie Lancelotti and Jan Sanderson joining us.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we'll move right into the minutes approval for February 21st, 2024 board meeting. Any additions, corrections, motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Susan. A motion to accept, second by Mark. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstentions. We have 1 abstention. Moving into the reports, in discussion with our CEO, Bill Fioravanti, and our counsel, Sue Katzoff. It was suggested we have a chairman's report, just kind of a holding place for each meeting. I don't expect that to be too detailed, but it gives me, as chairman, just a quick chance to indicate that Bill and I are working well together. We have regular interaction. In just a moment, Bill's going to present the CEO report, and many, if not most of those items we've had some conversation on. And I want to thank the staff for all the hard work with the audit and nearly done with the Paris report. I know that's a lot of work, and they're closing in on the goal line, so that's good to see. I'd like to welcome Linda Muller to this board. Good to have you here, and look forward to working with you. So unless there's any particular questions for me at this time, I'll ask Bill to do the CEO report.
Great, thank you. Everyone did get my report in advance, so I won't go over the entire thing. I'll just point a couple things out. I too want to acknowledge the work of Kelly and Marty on the audit and preparing for Paris reporting. It is all the heavy lifting. They've done a tremendous job because of them, their diligence. Our returns on the information we're able to collect from our projects, plus everything that goes into our Paris reporting, is more complete than ever, and certainly than prior administrations. So, and on time and done properly. So I really do want to thank them again for that. Also, Fast New York, we're moving through. Of course, we were awarded the $462,000 grant from Empire State Development. We are working through that with ESD. We still don't have all the details or our agreement, and we are considering other sites that we could apply for in the future. So we are having some discussions, even including with some municipal leaders. So I want to point that out. I alluded to the Paris report. That is due March 31st. So an approved audit is an essential component. So we can't submit until then. We'll be finalizing that. I'm going to send it all to you so you can see the final report. We'll have that in, of course, at least a week ahead of time. We'll submit that. Last piece is the website. We are moving forward now, and we have selected 88 studios to build our new website. So they have built a website for us before. They're maintaining the current site. We've had great service from them, and this is their specialty, the website. So we're excited to start working with them next week on that.
So I have a question on that.
Sure.
So we were working on rebranding the logo for
Yes.
IDA. What's going on with that?
Yep.
So we can only go so far. You're right. Thank you. We can only go so far with the website, though. There's a lot of work we can do until that's finalized. All the planning and then getting a wireframe together. But the front end, so to speak, the screens you see, it does require that. So I'd say within a week we're going to make a decision on what, if we're going to either keep the name the same or go one of the 2 directions that we proposed. I've been getting feedback from board members, and once we have that, we're going to ask Capacity Consulting to develop logos for it, and then we'll have all the different assets from that we can use in the various places on the website and in social and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
We will look for input from the board on some of these major decisions, so you'll be in the process.
I think that's it for me.
Okay, anything else for Bill? Questions, comments? Sounds good. Let's move on to the audit committee. Chairperson Sue Walski, please.
Okay, so again, at the audit committee for the OCIDA, we had a presentation by Melissa Zott of PKF O'Connor Davies. Out of the whole audit, there was one recommendation, and that was that we create a capitalization policy on capital assets. A sample form was provided to us, and our staff is working on that.
Great.
And with that, I would ask Melissa to present the audit, please.
Great. Thank you so much. You should all have a handout as well for the IGA. You guys all have
Yes.
the IGA? Okay, great. Would you like me to go over the required communications again?
You want to hear any of the same stuff again, the
Or-
first 2 pages?
We good?
Okay,
I
great.
think
No offense.
we got the idea.
You
Thank
like
you.
Melissa?
No problem, no problem. So we'll just jump to slide 5, which is going to be the numbers. So this is,
Actually, can you do 4? Because
Yes.
I do like hearing that we were perfect.
Yes.
And-
it is important to note, I think, that we issued an independent auditor's report and we did issue an unmodified opinion, which is a clean opinion. So that is the best opinion that the agency can receive. So I think that's the most important thing to report on this page.
You want to say it again, or? Thank you.
No problem. So on slide 5, this is going to be a summary, and then we'll dive into a little bit deeper on the next page. Again, year over year changes were provided. You can see that your revenues did increase about 60,000. You received 597,000 in revenues. Your spending did go down, so it ended at 906,000. So your loss was only 309,000 for 23 before your non-operating items. Interest income, those your interest earned on your CDs, was a positive increase. So you have 279,000 that you did collect on your interest income in 23 compared to the 42,000 last year. You did not have a loss on disposal of assets. This was due to the winding down of the business accelerator. So there were some capital asset items that were sold off and disposed of. So there was a loss on disposal last year. There's no similar loss this year. So you can see your overall change in that position. 2023, you only had a deficit of $29,000. So you started at 9.4 million and you ended at 9.45 million. So just to dive in a little bit deeper, if we go to slide 6, your revenues are made up of your operating and non-operating. The 2 items that I do want to point out on this page is the first line on your closing fees. So there's 542,000 this year. Most of that, 535,000, was related to closing of the Goshen developer and the Royal Wine. So that was closed this year, resulting in the fees. And then last year there was 195,000, which was your 3 West Warwick energy storage. So it ended up increasing this year. The next line item that I did want to bring up is second from the bottom on the operating revenue, the administrative fees. You can see there were no administrative fees collected in 23, but 204,000 collected last year. This was directly related to the IBM revenue that came in last year. It was terminated last year, so receiving none did fall within our expectations. Your total operating revenue came in at 597. Again, like I mentioned on the previous slide, you did have a significant amount of interest income. Interest rates were significantly higher in 23. So your total revenues overall, 877,000. On the next slide are your expenses. We did cover a lot of the expenses. Again, we went in detail with these in the audit committee meeting, line by line. I'm going to only point out a few of the larger changes here. The first one is your projects and special initiatives. You can see that those expenses increased from 26,000 to 147,000. The big driver on that is just the activity on your project. So
If I can just add, that's our shovel-ready initiative, essentially.
Yeah,
The stuff we did with Delaware Engineering, exactly.
thank you. The next line item is going to be the rental expense. So last year was 252,000. This year it's 49,000. Again, when the business accelerator was winding down, a lot of those rental expenses ended up coming off as well. The next line item that I want to bring up is the professional fees. That also went down from 215,000 to 126. There was just a drop in the pass-through costs for fees associated with the legal and the local labor auditing. So overall, your operating expenses, if you look at the bottom, 906,000. You didn't really have any non-operating. We talked about the loss on the disposal, which was a last year item only. So that's your income statement. If we go to slide 8, this is your balance sheet. You do have assets and liabilities at the agency. So you have about 3.6 million in cash and equivalents, and then investments are 5.8. You can see the change. Essentially, you moved and you purchased more investments this year, long-term investments that would classify it in a different category. Overall, you had more collections, so that's why your receivables and your due from other governments decreased year over year, which is great. Your capital assets did increase a little bit. If we jump down, I'll jump back up to your capital assets in a little bit. The liabilities piece, the item is the big changer is your leases payable. Part of the accounting standards require us to see if you have any long-term leases, which you do here at 4 Crotty Lane. So we have it now maturing in 2026. Based on the lease standard, you have a lease payable at reporting. It's offset in your capital asset, so that's a minimal impact on your net position, which is a good thing.
And it was essentially nil in 2022 because our lease was expiring at that time.
Exactly.
So if I can just jump in, because we talked about this in the audit committee. When you have a longer term rent, you have to front load everything. So, as when we do this next year, this number will be probably half of this or a third of this. So because it's a new lease and because we have that commitment, we have to front load that number here. That's why that number jumps out. Versus when you only have 6 months left, 3 months left, it's next to nothing because all you're incorporating is how much rent you have to do. So it was something we discussed. I just wanted to make sure that everyone, since we discussed it, I wanted to make sure everyone else understood.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. So that brings your liabilities at 241,000. That's the majority of that. Your net position, we do set aside 50,000 related to your fixed assets. So that's your capital assets less your lease payable. And then your unrestricted portion. So your designated portion is related to your 2024 budget. So currently on your 24 budget, you have set aside 300,000 specific to the Shovel Ready program. So that is set aside and pulled out of your undesignated, so you know how much you have to spend on agency purposes. So your undesignated, year over year, it just dropped 92,000. So you ended your undesignated at 9.1 million. So again, a really good position to end for the agency. And any questions before I move on to the management letter?
Questions? I think we're good.
Okay, great. Quickly on the management letter, and Susan did bring this up. We do provide this document. It has some required communications that I did go over with you, but on page 11, you can see that we do have an other matter comment. We are happy to report that there were no material weaknesses as part of this audit. An other matter is a best practice. So it's a comment that we find to be best practice amongst all organizations. You do have a disposition of property policy guidelines, which means that as you dispose fixed assets, you can follow this policy. In that, it does identify a capitalization threshold. Generally, what we see as a best practice is organizations will have a capital asset policy. And that will explicitly identify these 3 items: the definition of a capital asset, that they are recorded at historical cost as required by accounting guidelines, and then just document retainage, how long you're going to maintain those documents. So it's this, again, best practice, just tightening up your policies. We did provide a template that I believe, like you said, the staff is working on. And that was the only comment that we had for the agency.
Questions, comments? I might just ask how the Paris reporting coordinates with the audit. The audit is part of the Paris,
Yes.
I assume. Could you just give a high-level review?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So we work with the agency staff as well as Julie Julie Marshall. And she's the one that prepares, I believe, the Paris report. So what we do is attached to the financial statements is a supplementary information, and it houses all of the outstanding bonds and notes as well as any straight lease transactions, which in turn gets reported into the Paris report, the Paris filing. So we share that with Julie before it gets issued to make sure that we're both on the same page, so that there's no corrections or any adjustments. So we were able to share that with her and received that she was in agreement with that.
Thank you. Any other questions for Melissa?
I will just make one more comment. During the audit committee, a question was asked of Melissa because she has, so many other organizations that she does work with. The question was asked, is there anyone doing something that we aren't doing? Is there anything that we should be doing? And the answer was?
No, anything that would have been identified would have been reported, and we're happy to report that. You guys are operating in accordance with the other agencies that we do.
And a lot of that, again, we have to thank the staff because
Absolutely.
they work hard and diligently on this. Getting audits together is no easy task.
Correct.
Sure. Can I just ask Susan Katzoff a question?
Sure.
Last year, the only comment was they suggested a credit card policy, which they gave us a kind of a boilerplate, a template with. We implemented it as soon as possible. I don't recall if we went through finance, though I felt we did that. In order to resolve this capitalization policy, and again, you gave us a boilerplate for that, and Kelly has it all lined up. Sue, do we do this through finance? Can we address this and just fix this next time or in our next finance committee meeting? And then, does it need to come to the board for a final blessing after that?
Yes, if it's a formal policy, the full board would vote on it after a recommendation out of the finance committee.
Great, thanks. So I'd like to do that at the next finance committee meeting if we could, Mark. Put it on, make it a priority. Okay.
Good thought.
Great.
Very good. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful
Thank
rest
you,
of your
Melissa. We
evening.
appreciate everything. Thank the whole team, please.
I would ask, based on the recommendation of the audit committee, that this board have a motion to accept the full audit committee report, or the auditor's report, I should say, that we just heard.
Yeah, motion.
Motion by Dr. Oda. Second to that motion, Mark?
I will second.
Very good. Any other comments, questions? Did I get that motion about right, Sue?
Yes.
You did.
Good. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I think we had 6 in favor, nobody opposed,
Correct.
no abstentions.
Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you, Susan, for that report and all the process related to the external audit. Moving on to the Finance Committee, Chairman Mark Green, please.
All right, folks, if I can direct you to page 9 of your packets. Jeff, that's different than your packet, if you're using the one we use in finance.
I'm using my new one.
Okay,
Thank
so
you.
if you go to page 9, this is our budget versus actuals. A few things that I'd like to just pull out for you. If you go roughly 5 or 6 lines down, you will see, I think it's 4,500. You will see that number of the $6,067.95 that we mentioned
Right,
in
okay.
FC, but I wanted you all to see it so that you didn't have any questions about that. The very next line, you'll see roughly just under $60,000. That is our interest from a CD that came due. So our total income is, at 67,600 and change. A few other things that I would just like to draw your attention to. If you go down to the next section, you will see, I believe it is $1,650. That is our benefit plan, right? That is what we pay for the benefit plan. That is new this year. So just again, over the next few months, it won't be as much, it won't come to your attention as much, but I wanted to make sure that you all saw it. The other number that jumped out at me, if you go down a little bit further, marketing PR, 14,960. That is a confluence of bills from last year and the beginning of this year that are all coming together, so timing is everything. But that is why that number is the size it is. Yes.
So that, at some point, can we get a breakout of what was last year as opposed to this year?
Sure, definitely. Definitely do that. Yep.
Is that good enough?
Yeah, I just, you're
I'll get it
carrying
to
it in this year's budget, but if some of it was from last year, I think we need to know that.
Sure.
Yep.
A couple of those vendors, pardon me, Mark, a couple of vendors just have, I don't say they haven't been diligent, but they haven't billed us in some months, and then they send us 3 bills in 1 month. We have 2 of those vendors, both in marketing, that have done that, and
I get
it's
it.
kind of making it look rough, unfortunately. but
Yeah, and
we'll
that's
break that
why,
out for you.
at least if we can know, well, this is actually last year's expense carried forward.
Yeah, good question. Okay. Thank you.
And then the final number that kind of came out at me a little bit higher is the legal, which is roughly in the middle of the page. You'll see legal counsel, $6,200. I think part of that increase was some cleaning up of some things.
Yeah, that tends to fluctuate based upon the hours, because they bill us actual hours.
Right, and
obviously,
that's
so.
something we can discuss in executive session.
Exactly. And that really was it as far as anything that kind of was out of the norm. Everything else lined up pretty well. But if anyone has any questions, please let me know. If you are okay with that, then we can go to what is page 10 for you. And there were only, one thing that really kind of jumped out at me month over month, and that was the third or fourth line down, the American funds. That is again the 401k. The fact that it was that less, I think we might have a glitch, because again, we've converted over to putting everything through QuickBooks.
Right,
And so, instead of doing that, we've converted over from that manual process. And we think, and we're checking on that, right, Kelly?
Yes.
That this should, somehow it only put in a 1 week instead of putting in the full month. So we're hopefully gonna have that corrected by next month. Everything else lined up fairly straightforward. The only other thing I think Jeff had a question about 3/4 of the way down, Land Associates, the labor monitoring. We just wanted to make sure that was an actual expense that we are paying.
Yes.
isn't that a pass-through though?
Yeah.
This is
So-
the pass-through. This is on
This is the
the,
pass-
So we
On
pay
expense
land,
side.
and then we get the money back
Well,
from
that's
the
what I'm saying, it's a
escrow.
pass-through expense.
Mhm.
All right, and so now, as we discussed going into this year, any questions about that? Okay, then moving to page 11. So we're actually seeing the breakouts of the credit cards. So this is one credit card, M&T Bank, and behind it you'll see, you can certainly look through it for all the expenses that went for that credit card. And then the next credit card is the Elan. And again, you can see all the expenses, mostly website, and the QuickBooks expenses for that.
and if I could, Mark,
Yeah,
the purpose of that is because you're seeing every other expense except everything charged to the credit card. If you don't see the statement, you're not gonna see those individual expenses, so. This way, between the report, before the copies of the statements, between the two, you'll have everything. You're seeing every expense.
Right, so instead of just having that credit card line and then it being
Right, we
blind.
had asked for that last
right.
time.
Now you can see everything. Any questions about that? All right, then page 15 for you. I will try to, this is a little bit cattywampus, so I'll do my best. First and foremost, let's skip down to the bank section where you see Chase Bank has $1.998 million in it. Again, that's timing. We had a CD that came due. That money, 1.5 million of that is already back into a CD.
Okay.
So that true number is, let's just call it roughly $500,000. Okay? So, and that's important because now if we go back up to the CDs, you'll see that we had one come due on 3/6, the Lakeland for 1 million. That has been married with the 1.5 million that was in checking, so 2.5 million. That has been invested, JP Morgan, if I'm not mistaken, that we agreed on last month,
Yes.
at roughly 5.17%
For 6 months.
for 6 months. So, again, that's important, so if you just jot this down, you know, if you cross out the name Lakeland and put in JP Morgan, and you cross out 1 million and do 2,500,000, that will come due roughly November 17th or something like that.
September 5th.
I'm sorry, September 5th. So 9/5. And we'll come back to why that's important. So those are the true numbers there. So now, if we go from the top of our CDs, Lakeland, we have 5 million. That comes due in January of 2025. We have to discuss what to do with the TD Bank. That's coming due next week. And in conjunction with that, we talk about the Connect One that comes due on May 22nd. So the goal here is that we're going to roll this TD Bank over into a 3-month JP Morgan Treasury for, we hope, roughly 5.22%. If we do that, it'll come due roughly, let's call it June 30th, July 1st. When the Connect One comes due on May 22nd, we will leave that in the bank account, and then we will marry it with the one that comes due June 30th.
With the treasury note.
Exactly, and that'll give us 1.4 million that we will then make a decision on based on, we have money coming due in September, we have money coming due end of December, beginning of January. So in theory, I'd like to put that in something that comes due the following March. So we're staggered on our 3 months.
So it'll be like a 9-month certificate.
Probably, yes, unless it's egregiously, doesn't make sense financially to do it, but that would be the goal, to put it in 9 months. Any questions? I hope I explained that. Any questions on that?
Everybody good?
Fantastic. And then, that is it. That is it for me. So we need to approve this.
Accept the financials, the February financials, and I'd be more comfortable if we had a separate motion for the CD investment, if that's okay.
Okay,
So we can spell that out perfectly.
very good. So let's start with that motion for the CD.
Great.
Since Mark just reviewed that, would anyone care to make that motion to do as he recommends?
I'll make the motion.
By Giovanni, thank you. Second to that motion?
I'll second that
By
motion.
Susan. Other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried, 6-0. And on the other financials and payables that Mark reviewed, I would ask for a motion to accept those.
I'll make a motion to accept the financials and payables as presented by the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Susan.
Yeah, second.
Second by Doc Oduck.
Yes.
Other discussion, questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same, 6-0 on that. And just checking if that budget adjustment needs to match in the IDA, or we covered it, what
That's a great question.
needed to be done in the,
The budget modification? We don't need to, right?
We're okay?
Yeah.
very good. Okay, moving on to new business, the lunches project in consideration of a final resolution. Bill?
Sue, before you start, can I just ask if Brian's there? Here he comes. Here it is. I don't think I introduced him at the beginning of this meeting. Mr. Brian Lynch is, he and his wife Allison, owners of the Castle Fun Center, have been for some time. Thanks for joining us, Brian.
No problem.
We don't know that we'll need you to answer anything, but thanks for being here. And Sue Katzoff is gonna handle this resolution, okay? When you're ready, Sue.
Thank you, everyone. Yep, so in your agenda is a resolution with attachments. The attachment is the transcript from the public hearing that was held with respect to this project. As you know, or may recall, this, the company in this regard is commonly known as the Lynch's Amusement Park. It's located at 109 to 115 Brookside Avenue in Chester. Your predecessors previously undertook a project, and the company has come back and asked to make certain modifications to the project as are outlined in the resolution and as were discussed at the public hearing. Basically, they wanted to add approximately 15,000 square feet to house a roller skating rink and a bowling alley, and to modify their go-kart track. Because as a result of interruptions during construction, including the COVID period, needs have changed and wants have changed. So they're making some structural changes to the project. And in conjunction with that, they're asking for an increase in financial assistance in the form of exemptions from state and local sales and use tax in an amount not to exceed an additional $178,750. As a result of that request, a public hearing was held, and as you can see from the transcript that was enclosed, the comments received at the public hearing were very favorable with respect to this project. You will also note in the resolution that seeker was reviewed, and the Planning Commission had previously adopted a seeker finding, and this board is adopting that declaration as well. So with that, the resolution seeks your approval to provide the additional financial assistance and to execute and deliver any necessary lease transactional documents or amendments to those documents to evidence the increase in financial assistance.
And Sue, if I can add just one thing, also in the resolution is the cost-benefit analysis. Linda, for your edification, we perform a cost-benefit analysis using a tool, a proven tool from this MRB group for every single project we consider incentives for. In this case, you'll see the page that we included here. I guess you've got a couple of pages. This is on page 51.
51.
Just very quickly, the local benefit, it shows the state and local benefit to cost ratio. Locally, because we're getting all the benefit, construction jobs, permanent jobs, sales tax, et cetera, that comes from the expansion of this. The Orange County will receive a benefit 44 times the amount of the incentives that we're going to be extending here if you approve tonight. So I just want to point that out. And again, we do that for every project, but that was an eye-opener.
So that's it, we just need a motion.
Any comments, questions before we move to a motion? Would anyone care to make the motion to approve the final resolution as presented and all the documentation that's part of this package?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mark Green, second to that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Susan Wolski, thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor? Well, I assume this is a roll call, Sue?
It is in the resolution, yes.
It can be.
Let's do that, sure.
Oh, okay.
Up on that? Sure.
Please.
Jeff Christ?
In favor?
Thank you. Mark Green?
Yes.
Dr. Odock?
Yes.
Susan Wolski?
Yes.
Giovanni Palladino?
Yes.
And Linda Muller?
I'm going to abstain, please. Thank you.
That resolution is therefore passed.
Yes, 5 ayes, 1 abstention.
Okay, so now can we get a two-stroke advantage at the mini golf over there permanently?
Brian, can you help us? All right, let's not get ourselves in trouble
Not
there.
allowed.
Yeah, literally, jeez Louise.
I already asked for two strokes.
Thanks, Brian.
For your hard work.
You're welcome. Let me know when you're ready to amend documents.
Okay, what, does that, we'll talk about that, I don't know what that
We'll,
means.
we'll follow up with you,
Yeah.
Brian.
We'll set up a call. Yep.
Okay, and the sales tax would go into effect today, correct?
Yes, it can go in effect today. Yep, we'll file the SC60 with the state.
Great, thank you very much. Everyone
Thank
have a
you.
good evening.
Good luck.
Take care, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Looking forward to
Thank
seeing
you,
the finished
guys.
product.
Moving on to the Vision Hudson Valley and Orange County 2025 Quality of Life Study. Bill, would you like to do introduction?
Sure, sure. Sue, were you gonna say something? I thought I heard you, sorry.
I'm sorry, I was gonna talk about the resolution, but I'll wait.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll have our presentation, that's okay. Again, we've got our guest this evening from Vision Hudson Valley, again, Katie Lancelotti, the Executive Director, and the Board Chair, Jane Samuelson. They were
Welcome.
formerly known as the Orange County Citizens Foundation. I know one of the reasons for the name change is it kept getting confused with my wife's organization, the Orange County Community Foundation. Did I get that right? Community Foundation of Orange and Sullivan.
Yeah.
So Vision Hudson Valley is part of the new name, but really still focused on quality of life. They have done a couple editions of this quality of life report that we're going to talk about today. It looks like Jane has copies. I was going to go run for mine in the office, but you have plenty, it looks like.
I'll let her do her presentation first.
For
I'll
sure.
take a look at 'em.
What they're proposing now is they're looking to actually do a 10-year, a lot has happened in between, right, including COVID and such, looking to do a 10-year follow-up to that report. So come here, you saw a formal request for support from the IDA. We have supported it in the past. Actually, we're the lead funder for the 2015 report. So they've asked if we would consider helping to underwrite it again. So without further ado, Katie?
I just have a brief presentation just to give. So thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. VHV is a nonpartisan, not-for-profit organization that seeks to preserve and enhance the quality of life for residents of Orange County and the Hudson Valley region. In our tenure of 53 years, we've incubated organizations such as Leadership Orange, the Orange County Land Trust, the Community Foundation of Orange and Sullivan, the Heritage Trail, and more. Additionally, we have published this Quality of Life Report Card for Orange County, which is why we are here today. The Quality of Life Report Card is a publication that is divided into 8 categories, plus a demographics section. Each category consists of several indicators used to determine quality of life. These categories are education, health and healthcare, the economy, the environment, transportation, government, public safety, and arts and culture. We compare our standing with other counties in the 7-county Mid-Hudson region, New York State, and wherever possible, we do compare local municipalities to one another. We then determine if we've improved or deteriorated since the previous report card, and for our 2025 report card, like Bill mentioned, it has been 10 years since our last publication of 2015, so we will be doing a 10-year look back and seeing how we have grown and changed. This report serves as an important marketing and economic development tool for Orange County. It provides demographic and in-depth information about our municipalities and the county as a whole. It serves the same goals as you, the Orange County IDA, to promote job and business growth in Orange County. This year, our report card will look a little bit different. Because we recognize the importance to municipalities and the county, we will be making the report card more accessible to all by offering it in a digital format rather than just the physical copies that we will pass around for you guys to look at today. So for example, in the past, the Orange County Partnership, County Office, and agencies, local municipal leaders, and community and business leaders have used the report card to promote the region, identify new growth sectors, and find ways to save money. Amanda Dana was kind enough to share her comments, who is the director of the Orange County Tourism Film. She said, and I quote, "As one of the fastest growing sectors of our economy in Orange County, New York, tourism and hospitality goes hand in hand with enhancing the quality of life in our county. It makes perfect sense that the tourism industry would greatly benefit by utilizing the Quality of Life report card as a guideline as our industry continues to grow. Often when people visit our county, they are not just here to attend an event or attraction. They are constantly evaluating our county as a place where they can see themselves living in the future. The report card can be a reference not only for our current conditions, but also a barometer of what areas we need to improve as we strive to provide our current and future residents with an enhanced quality of life. Additionally, as we see the increased activity with new tourism attractions and film productions, this valuable document can assist in the attraction process. End quote. Regarding our budget, we are looking at a rough number of around $60,000. Although we are not printing the report card to the magnitude that we did previously, we understand that there are rising costs over the last 10 years in labor, research, and website development. We will be seeking the use of SUNY Orange students for the research team and are interested in having conversations with Mount St. Mary as well. For our 2012 and our 2015 report card, we did work with the Orange County IDA, and we're hoping to do so again with you being our key underwriter. We will be reaching out to other agencies and organizations to help us as well, but we wanted the IDA to be our first ask, and that is why we are here this evening. So we thank you for your time and welcome any questions. Jane will pass out. Yeah.
Give you a peek at the past report.
Yes,
So the gray one is the last one that we
You skipped
did.
me.
Did I skip you?
I read it cover to cover.
There is a 2015, 2012, and 2007 report card, and you can really see how everything has evolved over that time. So especially how big the report cards are.
Yeah, excuse me. It's just a comment I wanted to observation. Now, I see here that quality of life. I mean, you mentioned other variable. Quality of life is a function of some variable, education and so on.
Mm-hmm.
You probably would have added something like regress those independent variables on the dependent variable, which is the quality of life, and you can see which variable is more important. Did you do that or not?
That I'm not sure, but we will definitely take that under.
I think.
Multiple regression, I mean.
Yeah,
Yes.
I can't speak to that. But I do know that before we go ahead and look at each one of these, we put together focus groups to look at how we should be looking at the data. And so we can definitely take that into account.
I'll mention that Dr. Rodak's firm actually develops very comprehensive economic impact analyses, so he's maybe a resource for you, right?
Yes. Fantastic. We'll put you on the list.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So you're asking us for $60,000?
That is what our rough budget is.
That's my question. Do you have a budget that you could share with us?
No, not at this time. So this is preliminary. We're reaching out to those who have previously supported us. With you guys being the key underwriter previously, we did come to you first to ask if this is something you are interested in even supporting as we go forward with this. So rough numbers, that's why we're looking at 60,000. We do have a rough breakdown of what that 60,000 is, which we can provide, but we're still getting numbers as to how much the research team will be, the project manager, the entire development of the report itself. So we're still working on that.
Do you know if the $60,000 is the total budget that you're proposing, or will it be higher?
I don't believe it will be any higher. I think that's,
60,000 was our budget for the last one.
Right.
And so we're working off of that as
So
our
you would be
our
looking-
baseline,
You'd
right?
be looking to the IDA as the singular
Not
supporter of
singular,
the
no.
budget.
No.
Not singular, but the keynote sponsor, I guess, is.
So some portion of that 60,000?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I have a feeling, I think you might have misspoke if I'm not. The question was, did you want the full 60 from the IDI? Is it the request something lower than that?
Yeah, I don't think we have a formal number, but
Oh, no.
it's gotta be
I'm
the,
sorry.
If you want to give us the full
Leads.
60.
But we're not going to say no, but
Right,
we're
exactly.
also understanding that is a large
Excuse me,
amount of
Bill.
money.
yes, please. Sue.
The resolution says an amount not to exceed 20,000.
Right, that's, yeah.
I'm one voice, but I feel
Yeah.
I feel far more comfortable in seeing an actual budget to be able to make a decision. For me, that would be important.
Sure.
Yeah.
We can provide a preliminary budget, right?
And the resolution, I asked to be prepared just to have that information available. It's not something that we have to approve today, and questions coming up might dictate that we would continue to study. I don't know the timing on a budget. If a month from now, you might have a pretty good idea of a budget.
I think we could have something together in a month for you.
Yeah.
And also the potential for the other individual groups that will be, you're asking for support, because 20,000 clearly is not going to cover the total cost. So in order to ensure that the project can work, are you confident that you'll be able to receive all the funds necessary to proceed?
You are our first ask, and I think having your support will give us the momentum to be able to go ask some of these other corporations that have sponsored us in the past. So with your support, yes, I think we would be able to get the rest.
If you are asking for a list of who we are proposing to ask, that is also something we could provide as well, if that's.
Yeah, I mean, so in this, the past one that we did, the healthcare section was sponsored by Crystal Run Healthcare, and I believe the financial, or the economy portion was sponsored by Orange County Trust. So we would probably go back to our previous sponsors, but if they are, not able to, we will reach out to other firms in that sector.
And that will all just be part of your budget, so you'll have your anticipated expenses with the necessary revenue to accomplish that, and then you can break that down by who your potential sponsors will be. Okay.
Sure.
Bill, can you maybe give me, I'm sorry, were you done?
Oh, yeah, I was fielding questions.
Can you give me a 20,000 foot, what benefit do you see for us directly from this?
I think this report tends to inform, certainly economic development we do. Again, in my former positions at the county and the Orange County Partnership, it's something we refer to all the time. I think it's something when we revise our UTEP, we can look to that to see where we are, where we stand. There's a lot of data in there that we could use really for our own analysis when it comes to that. I don't know that it would play in specifically to projects that we're approving, except for workforce statistics, things like that. Then when we're talking to site selectors, we're talking to companies that are asking those questions, so we've got that data right on hand. But for our own analysis, for what's coming up soonest, I think UTEP is an example of where it can help inform our discussions around our uniform tax exemption policy. Janet?
I mean, and if I could say, we're not set in using the exact same indicators that we've used in the past. I want to hear from Bill what indicators are helpful to you, and we would be happy to include them.
That would be great. That's something we didn't talk about. Yeah, that would be terrific. And if I could just add, in my opinion, one of the many failures of the past administration is that oftentimes we were the only funder in these types of arrangements where it's just us, no exit strategy for us, and it's really, again, we're shouldering most of it. Last time we were 50 out of the $60,000. So we made it clear that we're taking a different approach, that we want others to be stakeholders in this and shoulder the load as well. But I will say that I've offered to assist if we do support it, if I can help them in any way by pledging a testing tour, why we're behind this and trying to help prospect and close some other sponsors of this. I'm happy to help with that because we think it's important, but we do want to have some other people chipping in on that.
Would you you mentioned this in the past, and now you're going to a web-based type of thing. Have you thought at all about allowing a user to be able to download data, to be able to manipulate data, right? So if I'm thinking of this, I'm going, okay, boy, I'd really love to be able to search for, I'll make something up, but be able to pull it into a spreadsheet so I can do some sorts, do some things that I could actually manipulate and work.
That's a great idea.
Is this something that you would consider doing? Because,
absolutely.
I just looked through this and look, I'm from no man's land. I'm from Port Jervis, so my immediate thing is, okay, where do I see Port Jervis?
Port Jervis is in there. So.
Well, it's in here somewhere, but it would be really nice if I could, find it like that.
Yeah.
So that would be something I would kind of maybe suggest.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
that is also part of the reason why we want it to be digital. Like, as much as I appreciate a tangible something to have, I also appreciate the Control F and being able to find what I'm looking for in finding Port Jervis in that data. So having it go to a web-based is definitely more user-friendly, and it's easier to distribute. And
But we could
see
probably
interest.
take it one step further and
With
include the
your-
links to the data itself.
Well, because the way I'm seeing this now, right, if they did this kind of analysis, and I'm not saying it would be as in-depth as some of the other stuff that we've asked, right? But is there data in there that you could pull out and then marry it with our shovel-ready and things like that?
Yeah.
That might make things a little, would be able to maybe put some color around some things. So that's why I'm asking about being able to pull the data out and actually being able to manipulate it and use it in a way that we could juxtaposition this, if that makes sense to you.
I'd love to
So
talk
it
to
would
you
no
about
longer
that.
be proprietary to them, it would be public domain.
Well, it is public
Well, it
domain
is-
right now.
it
It's on
seems
our
like it is
website.
already.
Yeah, it is
It is.
already.
It's
It's on
on
our
our
website.
website.
Anybody
Yeah,
can
but
go
it's,
and look
when
at it.
it's on, in a digital format, it becomes a lot bigger field of propriety.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's something for us to look further into, definitely. But to Jane's point earlier,
I'm sorry, I cut you off again, I apologize. I'm skeptical, but I'm excited about potential.
Yeah.
So, even if we said, okay, we're willing to do this, and you're not, even if you're not willing to go Sue's route and make it public, I would say,
Well, as an
Oh,
underwriter,
yes.
obviously we
Yes.
have access to the
Yes.
the
Yeah.
data. Yes.
to all the raw data, so that, we can manipulate it
Of course, right.
if we wanted to.
yes.
And when I say manipulate, I mean utilize.
Yes.
Right,
correct.
and to the point I was making earlier, Jane had pointed out that it has been, everyone has pointed out, it's been 10 years since we have done this. So indicators do change, and what people need to be able to access has changed. So we are open to discussion. We're not married to this. So we are open, especially to someone who is going to be underwriting it, we are open to the discussion as to what it is you are looking for.
And I apologize for continuing to cut you off.
Yeah. Now, looking at this, how did you collect your data in the past? You by phone or by, how did you, the information get passed?
Research, graduate research assistants at SUNY New Paltz were, I guess, employed to,
Yeah, 'cause they
to
were
do the
paid.
data research. And they were overseen by a project manager.
Did they do that in person, or they could, I don't know if at that time there was electronic access to some of this information? I would think today that it would be.
Say, a lot of these, there's websites underneath the data telling you the source, so I'm assuming that it was digital
Okay.
access. Yes.
So to be just a little bit of a nudge, did you say you were looking at SUNY Orange and Mount St. Mary for this study?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. You understand why I'm going this way,
I
right?
do.
Okay.
Some of the value I see for economic development has to do with seeing the workforce out there.
Yes.
I don't know if some of the numbers get into various careers or talents,
I believe yes.
but also housing needs.
Yes.
And if part of our priority and mission is to bring more jobs, the right kind of jobs, but to Orange County. And these people have to live somewhere, and we know there's challenges in housing. That earlier today brought up the question, are there other studies out there that have looked at some of that infrastructure, housing, so that we don't duplicate something that's already done?
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeff, to your point, I come from the healthcare world, so I'm looking at the health and wellness. Do you coordinate your data with the county health department, who does an extensive amount of research on exactly the same things that you have in your report? So
We do partner with them.
redundancy is something that you really, you don't want to do that.
Right, right.
And I'm sure that there are other departments within the county that does the same kind of data search.
Yes. Yeah, we do partner with the county come up with the indicators and then also provide the data as well.
Thank you.
Giovanni?
I think Pattern has a lot of these studies done already, that's what Jeff was referring to, so a couple of questions that I have. Bill, if I could ask you to do a little bit more of a heavy lift in the sense of really, to Mark's point, explaining how it would benefit the IDA. I think it's really important.
I could expand on that for sure.
I think that's important, and to make sure that it's in the mission of what we're trying to do. I think seeing a budget's very critical. I'd like to see who else is committed to contributing to that budget. What percentage are we asked to contribute to their budget? And then for us internally, where did we account for this in our 24 budget? Where would these funds come from? Because I don't think we accounted for our study.
We did not.
We did not.
Does it come out of the shovel ready?
would
So that's an
have to come
internal conversation for us.
Yeah, unless we modify the budget again, which can be done. But it could come out of that 300,000 because we probably are not gonna expend all of that in 24. But I'll definitely get you that detail. Sure.
Good comments, Giovanni.
Well, I just want to, I mean, there's a lot of people that will benefit from this, including municipalities, and I just want to see if they're going to have some skin in the game. You know, why should the burden be completely on us? And that's what I'm asking of you to tell us why it would be so important of us that we should be the lead contributor to this study.
Sure.
Because we know studies are done all the time, and a lot of times they're just set aside, but I want to make sure that if we're going to do something, it's something that's really tangible to us and our mission.
I'll definitely dive into that and give you detail on that.
If I can expand a little bit more on what Giovanni was saying, I think, yeah, this is going to be more of an ask of you. From, if you take all of our comments and kind of put it together and say, okay, how can we as an organization use the data they're collecting in a way that would help us?
Understood.
To continue to grow, to continue to try and do things. So it's
Further our
going to
mission,
be
yeah.
more, again, more on your plate, but it's a little more complicated than just saying, yeah, this is a good idea, we should do it. Which, you know, there is value to this. I understand there is value, but I think there's an opportunity for us to utilize it more than what's been done in the past.
Yes, I agree.
Right.
Agree.
Good point.
Yeah, we'll delve into that.
I do have a question. Has your organization rendered, or will they be rendering an opinion on the housing initiative and override of home rule by the government?
We don't form opinions, we're just providing the data. We just are showing the trends so that the government agencies or you know, like yourselves can see the trends and make your own opinions.
Fair enough. Anything else for Jane and Katie?
One other question, I mean, there's some state legislation that's coming out that might impact multifamily and housing. Is that factored into your study, and what the impacts could be if that legislation is passed? Especially to affordability? Because that's a development question.
Right.
Because we're looking at focusing on housing, and there's some things that the state's considering right now.
Right, I'm just
that could
trying
have
to
an
think of
impact.
like what indicators we would be using to,
Median rent?
yeah.
You know,
If I can maybe take this in a different direction. Let me ask you a question first that may be able to answer his question. What is your time frame on this, right? We're your first stop. So that means, I'm assuming there will be other stops. So you have to go kind of get your stuff together. What is your goal for starting this project? What is your goal for completing the project?
The goal for completing is the fall of 2025. The goal for starting would likely be late spring, beginning of summer.
Of this,
Of
well,
this,
so
I'm
my,
sorry.
so my
Of
thought was
2024.
to spend the summer putting their focus groups together, figuring out what indicators we want to use. Then starting in the fall, when the kids are coming back to college, that's when the project would really get started. So during the school year of 2024 to 2025 is when the real work would get done. And then we would go to publish the summer of 2025.
So I think your question, I understand your question is a very hot topic right now. but we aren't sure exactly what's going to happen, right, until April or May or whenever they get their act together. So then I think it might be, when we might be able to address that, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if they're prepared to even,
I guess the question really comes to, is this just documenting what we have, or is it also projecting? Is it projecting what potentially could, how these different sectors could grow, or how could they be impacted in the next 5 years? I don't know if you have any long-term study in mind, or is it just documenting where we are today?
Yeah, so there are predictions that are made. There were predictions definitely made in the 2015 one that we would also be looking at to see if those predictions did come to fruition. So we would then in turn be making predictions then for the 2025 analysis.
Anything else? Thank you both for the interesting conversation.
Thank you
And
for
look
having
forward
us.
to more to come.
Jeff and I have a couple of copies of these. I know you only have so many, so you want them back.
Yeah.
We can, if somebody wants to borrow mine, or
Thank
let me know, please. Don't take it home. or-
Additionally, we do have the links to all of these on our website.
I know you have to shop your wares.
So feel free, and I can send those to you, Bill, so you can just send them right out.
Yeah, I will tell you though, it's Vision Hudson Valley. I think it's in your menu button, and it's one of the choices on the menu, which is quality report. It goes right to the PDF of this, so.
And it seems clear to me, there's more discussion to have here, more information to gather, and we would not take any action on the resolution. Sue Katzoff, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add on how we go about this, or, and there's...
No, I would just note for the record that the resolution is being held for further consideration.
Thank you.
And Bill, it's in the notes out there in the minutes, but all the things that, budget, things like that.
Absolutely.
to make
I got
sure
it.
that,
For sure.
It keeps moving, matriculating forward.
Very good. So,
Thank you very much for your
thank
time.
you both.
Thank you.
Have
Thanks
a
for
good
coming.
evening.
Appreciate it.
Unless there's anything else on our agenda for tonight, other than consideration of executive session, speak up, and I will ask that we consider an executive session to discuss personnel. Anything to add there, Sue?
No, that's good.
Would anyone care to make that motion?
Make a motion that we adjourn to executive session?
Susan?
Second.
Second by Mark. And I'll say before we take a vote that we may be taking some action.
Yes.
And we need to, we'll cover that issue in executive session. But we will come out of executive session to close the meeting in a little while. So all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? Motion carried, no abstentions. We'll go into executive session. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. We have concluded our executive session. We had a motion to come out of executive session by Giovanni, second by Mark Green, and we're now back in the public session of the meeting. And Sue, just remind me the wording on our motion.
To leave, or the motion that was made in executive session will appear in your minutes, but it was a motion to approve a compensation package and objectives and goals for the CFO, I was gonna call you the executive director.
CEO.
CFO for 20,
CEO, not CFO.
24.
So you said CFO a couple
Was
times.
made-
Sorry to interrupt you. You said CFO.
CEO.
Yeah, that is your title.
No, I'm the chief executive
Oh,
officer.
CEO, I'm sorry. sorry.
You don't want me to be your
That's why I
CFO.
was gonna call you the executive director. The motion was made by Giovanni, it was seconded by Mark. Every board member present voted in favor. Subsequent to that, there was a motion to adjourn, and now we are seeking a motion to close the regular meeting.
Would anyone care to make that motion?
I would love to.
Yes, sure, Mark. Second to that motion
I'll second.
by Giovanni. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion adjourned at 7:00.